I got a little too efficient, gang, so bear with me. We got to wait for 6 p.m. exactly. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The May 6, 2026 meeting of the City Council will now come to order at 6 p.m. precisely. Winnie, may we have roll call, please?
Jessica Ayers. Here. Nick Card. Kevin Keating.
Here.
Mike Kurlinger.
Here.
John Quinn.
Here.
Zach Smith.
Here.
Kevin Stein.
Here.
And Garrett West.
Here.
We have 7 present.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum. Let's kick it off with agenda item 20, City Manager Reports. Mr. Vile.
Mayor, Council, John Vile, your interim city manager. Just a few updates to share with you this evening. Last month, you had your first of 2 town halls that included wards 1 and 3 at North Medford High School. Nice event, pretty good attendance. I just remind you that there's 2 pieces for the next one that's coming up, is that you have a meet and greet at 5:30 to 6, and then the formal panel discussion with questions and answers from those attending from 6 to 7:30. Council, for those that are in wards 2 and 4, I just would encourage you during the meet and greet. At the last one, they were great in getting out because people were a little bit reluctant to walk up to you, and they walked up to them, and lots of good, positive conversations were had from that. So we just encourage you to do that to help people feel engaged and feel comfortable speaking up. This year's theme, neighborhood safety, streets, and parks. And so the next one is May 21st. It's going to be at the Prescott Room here in the Fire Department's building. We just finished a very successful Chipper Days project where we provide wood chippers where people can bring their yard debris into the city. We had a couple of parks we had this at, and then we also had one at a school as well, and people could bring their wood debris in. We would chip it, and this is through a project funded by the Oregon Fire Marshal, a grant program. That this was one of several aspects of that project, but highly successful, 65 loads on Saturday alone, and thank you to our community partners, the schools and others that partnered with us to do this event to try to get some of that brush taken down to help reduce fire danger and when the things dry out in the summer, that they always do. We had a couple RFPs going out now for different projects. So the stadium request for proposals has closed. The city received 6 proposals on that. Just remind council, this is based on a best value selection, so this is not a low bid process. We try to find out who's going to have the best package to present, and this is to do design work for a potential stadium. Council has not made a decision to whether to move forward with that project, but we need to get some better cost estimates. So we got those proposals back. We're in the midst of scoring them now, and we hope to do full evaluations or interviews on May 11th. And you can see the cost range varies from $500,000 to $750,000. I would note council has been very clear regarding the private parties' participation, and so if it's over $500,000, we'll be having some very clear conversations with DG Elmore and his folks on that. Also, just let you know, Monday we issued the conference center and hotel RFP. Lots of help from the chamber in writing that. We have started the project at Jackson Park. This is a project that has been in planning for years, a very old facility built in the 60s. You're talking to an old public works guy. Infrastructure does wear out over time, and infrastructure does have to be replaced. And that Parks got every inch out of that facility they could, but it's time to replace it. So demolition has started. The pool tank demolition is underway, but they are saving the old historic building that's associated with it, and then a new, very beautiful splash pad will be put in its place that I think is going to get a lot of use from the city, along with new restroom buildings and a picnic area. Looking at completing that project in the fall of next year. We've shown this slide before. I'll just remind you quickly that if you have people that you're talking to that are interested in proposing on putting up to cover the signal control boxes at our intersections, the submissions are due on the 13th, which is, I believe, next week. And so if you're talking to somebody, tell them to get on it and get their submissions in. And lastly, we do have some upcoming meetings coming up. So next Wednesday, a week from tonight, we will have an Economic Development 101. This is in preparation for a discussion on the Mura 2.0, where we're going to be spending some time talking about how that whole process works. Cindy Robert, who is our state consultant lobbyist, is going to be giving you information regarding the past session and asking for input from you on the future session, the things that we should be seeking and asking for. The following council meeting, we will be ratifying the Main Street decision that you made a couple weeks ago with a couple other agenda items. And then, as I've noted before already, on May 21st, we're going to have the town hall at the Prescott Room and hope to see all those that are assigned to attend. And Mayor, that completes my report. Any questions?
Any questions? Great, thank you. We are moving on to recognitions and community group reports. First up, we have YMCA update. Brad Russell. Yes, there you are. It's actually a busy audience back there, so sorry I missed you.
That's all right. Good evening. I'm Brad Russell. I'm the Executive Director of the Rogue Valley Family YMCA. I was asked to report on the $17,500 in funding we received from the city for a fire alarm system in September of 2023. So the new fire alarm system was installed by Pacific Electrical Contractors in November of 2023, and that's at our Youth Development Center. That's at 2200 Roberts Road. That's near North Medford High School. I would note that the Deputy City Manager, Ryan Martin, told me in May of 2024 that I did not need to do a final report and a presentation to the City Council. It was not needed due to the type of project. So I was not derelict in my reporting. I just want to make that clear. But for the sake of some feedback, I do want to just say that, we are very grateful for that gift, and thank you for those that led that effort. It was a surprise to us because the fire department and the city approved our prior fire alarm system and issued an occupancy permit. And you see, we had registered preschool children ready to start the school year there in September of 2023, but the occupancy permit was rescinded, and thus we had to refund and then close the preschool until the new fire alarm system was installed, and ultimately our occupancy permit was reissued. So, right, obviously that cost us financially, and it certainly caused some frustration for the families. And that false start also followed another odd situation. Just for the sake of feedback, right? This city council approved our facility as a homeless shelter when our request and repeated in-person corrections to the deliberation was for a youth development center and for a community center, not for a homeless shelter. That really upset the neighbors, and also the police department started referring homeless individuals to that facility. And so I had to hire a consultant, which many of you know, Jim Mays, to eventually correct the intended purpose. In any case, it is now a community asset. It's in partnership with the Housing Authority of Jackson County. It's next door they have nearly 100 units. We conduct preschool there, day camp, staff training, special events, community service projects, and it's for use by other nonprofits, not just our nonprofit of the Y, but Red Cross, Listo, Pollinator Project, Scouts, and many other groups. So we will seal coat and stripe the parking lot because it still looks kind of bad from the outside, and we'll add some landscaping, and then we'll develop the field that's next to the facility when we solidify funding for that. So just to conclude, thanks again for the funding. I really do appreciate that. It came from the Council Community Initiative Fund, and a little plug, it is actually my hope that later this year you will consider some funding to develop 3 tax lots and a donated house near the YMCA so we can provide some short-term housing for youth development staff, for interns, visitors, and even international camp counselors. That's not my request tonight, just planting the seed. So more on that later. Any questions?
Questions? That was pretty clever, by the way, to bring that up now. Good job.
Thank
So
you.
what is that? Is it, how many touches for marketing to take place? So good,
7.
Good work. 7.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So,
Yeah, well done. Kevin, did you have? I did not, no, I was just saying. Yeah, great.
yeah.
Super. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
the update.
your support of the Y. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have a Southern Oregon University update with President Rick Bailey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It is truly an honor to be here. My name is Rick Bailey, president of Southern Oregon University. Thank you so much for the gracious invitation. I want to start with a word of gratitude to your city manager and their amazing staff. Thank you for all of the help that they did in getting me here. I've also been told that that at 3 minutes, Winnie's going to turn my slides off, and that at 5 minutes, Councilor Ayers is going to throw a pencil. So I promise all of you I'm going to be very brief with this. This is really just to give you an update on everything that you're seeing probably about Southern Oregon University. Certainly challenging times for higher education in the state and around the country. There are colleges and universities that are closing now on the average of once a week. That's how serious the challenges are, and SOU is no stranger to that. But what I'm here to share with you is we're committed to saving this university and to doing everything that we can to be good stewards of precious resources moving forward. So really, in 3.5 minutes, I'm going to tell you about our SOU environment, the transformation to what we're looking to do for the future, and then a timeline. I want everyone to hear this. SOU generates $282 million in economic activity for the region and the state, $282 million. And yet we receive $30 million from the state every year. And even though I was the president of our math club in high school, I'm not as good as I was back then, but I know that really means that for every dollar the state invests, we generate $9 in economic. That's what makes the institution so important. There's a lot of history with financial challenges because we had to start to live within our means. For the last 4.5 years I've been here, we've been really aggressively working to make sure that we are good stewards of public dollars. Recently, I'll kind of breeze through this. There was an appropriations bill in the last legislative session, which appropriated some funding specifically for SOU. We recognize that we, as the only university that received funding like that, we did not take it for granted. But as part of that, we have to commit to a really, really dramatic transformation. And I dare say that what SOU is about to do, every public regional institution in the country is going to have to do because of what the landscape for higher education looks like, specifically for public regional schools. For us, it means a hyper-focus on academic functions. It means moving auxiliaries closer and closer to self-sustainment, and it means looking at partnerships to do a lot of the administrative work that we do. So it'll actually fundamentally change who we are as an institution. This gives you and the audience a rough timeline of how this process has gone. We actually started back in February, but really now we're coming to the end of this. So this Friday, our Board of Trustees will explore recommendations that a consultant through the Higher Education Coordinating Commission has given to us. Those recommendations are in those buckets that I just talked about. They are likely then going to challenge me and our university to use that as a starting point, and then create an implementation plan on our own, which we hope to give to our board by mid-June. So that's where we're at now. We're working on implementation. I have a meeting with the governor on May 18th to talk more about our process and to make sure that we have those partnerships that we need to be able to do the things that are outside of our control. And a word of gratitude to all of the community stakeholders. Right now in the Medford Library is a town hall about how to save SOU. That outpouring of support from students, faculty, staff, and community members has all come from a place of love, and I want you all to know how much we appreciate it. Was that on time? Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, well done. Questions? Kevin? Oh, wait, Jessica, then Kevin?
I was just going to say, Dr. Bailey, did you intentionally avoid that town hall to be here, or?
No, but I'll say it worked out perfectly. It worked out perfectly. No, I will say this. So we've had a lot of demonstrations on campus. We've had a lot of feedback from community. People are very passionate about the university. It is a gift everything that's happening in your library right now is a gift. I want that on the record because it means people care about our university. And, Councilor Ayers, you're right. We are going to have to make some very difficult decisions, and those decisions will likely sunset programs that people care about. And that's painful. It's painful for me. And I'm the one who also then has to translate that into faculty and staff who are very good at what they do, who are now, because of our funding environment, are going to have to go, and that's awful. So I am conscious of that. But all the people who are passionate, that's a gift.
Kevin?
Thank you so much for coming. Not to take too much time here, but what's the good news?
Yeah. I have some.
Okay, great. What's the good news?
Yeah, so let me share a vision,
Yeah.
Councilor Stein. And by the way, that was not a planted question, but I appreciate that you asked it. What we're going to do is actually trailblazing. So here's the reality. The reality is that there are, we can talk about fewer students in high school now. We can talk about that Oregon ranks 46th in funding for public universities per student. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right? So those are headwinds that we're pushing, but we can't control. But that's not just unique to Oregon, it's all over the country. And so we have two choices. We can be one of those schools that sunsets, which is happening, like I said, once a week, or we can say, you know what, let's blaze a trail and let's actually redesign what public higher ed needs to look like for the rest of the century. And so I am confident there is so much goodness in what we do, and we understand it, and the university is worth fighting for, and this region is worth fighting for, that what we are going to do, I'm convinced is actually going to be the role model for what the rest of the country does. And SOU is going to lead the way.
That's awesome. Real quick, one, I'm so thankful. I mean, obviously, not great times. You're mentioning the good times going forward, but I'm happy that you're there doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Right. The second thing is, do you have any idea right now the impact it would be to the HEC?
Yeah, great question. I think, so President Weber.
Sorry. For those that don't know, HEC is the building within Medford.
Higher
overall
Education
Riverside.
Center, yeah. Fantastic facility. So, and it's now 26 years old, roughly, something like that? Please don't check me on that. So we share this facility with our friends at Rogue Community College. I do think that one of the things that we have to do as part of this transformation is really explore. There are our number one feeder school, number one feeder high school across the state, across the country is Medford. That's our number one feeder district for SOU. So we do have students and families and others who live in Medford. And yet we have a very, very small footprint at the HEC. Most of it is done by RCC. I suspect that this transformation, this is something that the mayor and I talked about. I suspect that this transformation will likely involve a bigger footprint at the HEC for us, because we just need to change the way we do things and reach out to prospective students that we have not done as great a job as we have in the past.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, Garrett? Not so much a question, but comments on everything. So I read the report that came out.
Oh,
and, these are very difficult decisions
Yes, sir.
that you're being faced with, and I think we're all very thankful that you have to make those hard decisions.
Yeah.
SOU is such a critical part of the community, and I guess my perspective is whatever sacrifice needs to be made, you'll receive a lot of criticism for them. I'm behind you 100% to preserve the institution, whatever it takes.
Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that, Counselor. Yeah, I think at the end of this, we're all motivated by, I've shared it with our campus community. I'm a caretaker, really. And so, yes, it's difficult to make decisions that are affecting students, faculty, and staff now, but we have to, we're 154 years old as an institution, and it's our job to make sure that students 20 years from now, 50 years from now, have an opportunity. So thank you for that. That'll be our North Star as we make these decisions.
All
All right. Well, looks like that's about it. Just as a final comment, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you're looking at this as an opportunity to not only be the caretaker for the university, but to be that example of how do we go through this. I was back east a couple 3 weeks ago and just read about a liberal arts school in Massachusetts that
Yeah.
closed that week, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of just stuck with me with that. So number one, appreciate your attitude. And yeah, let's, however we can help push this forward and maintain the asset to the region, but also maybe make it better while we're doing
Yeah,
that.
thank you, Mr.
We're
Mayor.
here for that.
Well, you're already doing it by having me here. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you and the council having me. So thank you. Oh, by the way, shameless plug. On Monday, this Monday at 12:30, if you're around, it just so happens that our women's beach volleyball, our team are national champions, and we're having a parade in downtown Ashland. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because it's Medford.
Oh,
But you're all welcome to attend. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah, appreciate everyone. Thank you.
We are now moving on to agenda item 40, which is our oral requests and communications. This is where the city council sets aside 30 minutes for in-person public comments. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per person or organization. As outlined in the agenda, the public may also submit written comments to the council. Winnie, were there any written comments?
Sorry, Your Honor, here. Yes, we had written comments submitted from 2 people. Michelle Slaughter submitted written comments in support of the Medford Transportation Safety Action Plan, and Miriam Grayer submitted written comments outlining her opinions about Creekside Quarter and Hawthorne Park. All of the comments were sent to the mayor and city council. They are also available on the city's website. There were no other written comments submitted for agenda item 40.
All right. So before hearing public comments, I would like to note the decorum policy for the council. The use of noisemakers or disruptive audience behavior such as applause, cheering, or shouting is not permitted. Decorum violations are time-consuming and disrespectful to the speaker and all attendees, and failure to follow the basic standards of decorum may result in removal from the meeting. And I would like to emphasize that this is your opportunity to provide comments to the council, and it is not intended to be a time for question and answers. So if you have completed a public comment form, please come to the front of the room when your name is called. Let me just do a quick check-in. How many proposed speakers do we have? Oh boy.
We have 16 now.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so perfect math. We got 32 minutes. I'll tell you right now, it doesn't go quite that fast. So just as a heads up, when it's 2 minutes, I'll probably say something. And if you can get what you need said in less than that, please do so. That way we can make sure we accommodate everybody here. The time is 6:22, and public comments will be heard for another 30 minutes at least. Winnie, could you call maybe the first 3 people?
Okay, we have Ruben H., John Statler, and Doug Frazier.
So yeah, come on down, introduce yourself, and go ahead and get started.
My name is Hernandez. I've been a resident of Medford, Oregon for about 7 years now. I came from California. I have 2 children, a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old daughter. I'm opposing the park turning into a baseball diamond. I've actively been out here engaging with children in the community that are troubled. I've been asked to become a youth gang counselor. I spent 15 years in prison. I've been disciplinary free for over 17 years. So I've been looking at nonprofit organizations where I can align my child with some kind of programs. Unfortunately, these children in these parks are saying there's nothing for them to do. I tracked my child to parking lots, to alleys and stuff, and I asked him and his friends, what are you guys doing? They said there's nothing for them. There's more money for the drug rehabilitation programs than there is for kids. There's no money for the lunch programs. The schools are overcrowded. They keep finding funding. You guys keep finding funding for parks and stuff like that, and there's nothing for your children. So I'm looking at preventive measures. Before these kids have come to me and told me that they're having to become drug addicts, before they're able to receive or people are hearing them. These kids are turning into drug addicts. They're getting lost in the streets because there's no assistance for them. The YMCA is one of the programs that are available, but a lot of these programs are inclusive, which means you have to pay for them. I believe that we should look at our money where it's being spent and start looking at our youth and start appropriating some of our funds for them and preventive measures. I have people who are willing to step forward in the community with trades because there's no vocational trades in none of these schools that are available in your guys' area. So I've gotten community members who want to make a transparent program with everything on the board, how much is being allocated, where the money's been spent, so there's transparency, because there seems to be a lot of misappropriation of funds. People seem to cut themselves a check. I'm doing a lot of work. I'm entitled to $80,000 out of the $100,000 grant. So we're looking for people to look into this, if it's even possible, if it's feasible, if the community is open to it, because I've looked and I've done my own studies. I found that there's more money for rehabilitation for drug offenders than there is when you make a charity for feed hungry children in Medford. It is amazing. No people open their wallets. I've watched this. I've talked to people, and a lot of people feel the same way, but nobody speaks. They're like, Ruben, we're behind you, but nobody wants to break that ice. I'm here to break that ice. Hopefully you guys are hearing me. Hopefully you guys are have children, nephews, nieces, because they're the ones that need help before they become drug addicts and before we need this revolving door, these rehabilitation centers that are receiving the funds. That's all I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, shit.
And I do think there's some oxygen at the back of the room there. You can take a quick hit.
I don't know that you do this anymore, but my name's John Statler. I live in 1120 Niantic Street. I served a full term on Medford City Council as a council member beginning in 2004. I have 2 points based on my council experience. Shouldn't take long. My first point is for the council to distrust the early proposals for major projects. For example, the Northgate development across from the mall traces back to a 2006 comprehensive plan amendment and zone change that established the framework for the Northgate development across from the mall. The plans presented to the council at that time showed buildings with European-style shops. The design was pedestrian-friendly. It invited you to walk. And a tram would go around the development and actually come over to the mall and go back. That's what was presented. They sold an experience that didn't happen. It happens a lot in all cities, not just this one. The project appears to be following this project, the park at Hawthorne Park project, appears to be following the same path. Big, glorious things, going to be wonderful. Oh, it's going to draw all these people, and it's going to wind up being a strip mall some kind, a baseball park strip mall. At least that's what happened at Hawthorne, at the Northgate. People are passionate about this park, as it is. My last point is for the council to be prepared for contentious hearings, appeals, and suits against the city as this project goes forward. It's totally inappropriate, and a youth center there would be much more beneficial to the whole community. Thanks.
Thanks. And next, Ed, Winnie, could you call the next three? And go ahead, sir.
It's Leonie Fogel, Christine Lochner, and Ellen Eichhammer.
Hi, my name is Doug Fraser. I live in downtown Medford, 1 block from the beautifully scaled county courthouse and business center our founders built over a century ago. I'm here to speak in favor of development, thoughtful, creative development that connects Hawthorne Park across Bear Creek to downtown businesses, development that knits East and West Medford through the downtown core before the scar of I-5. I was a catcher through high school, and I'm used to seeing the field from the behind the plate, the ground out, past the infield to the mountains and the sky, the same sky that brought our ancestors here, where they planted pear trees. It's not guaranteed that if you build it, they will come. We need vision. I'm convinced designing Hawthorne Park along Bear Creek as a landscape park with trails, bridges to downtown, bird and bee sanctuaries, playgrounds for kids, an oasis for all, hotels along the park edges serve a broader dream of conventions downtown for 100 to 5,000 people, meeting at the Criterion and Holly theaters, bouncing back and forth from the hotels, the parks to downtown, a public-private consort where everyone has a place and profits. What did the baseball field, you say? Build it, but not at Hawthorne. Nothing is farther than 15 minutes away from here. Build it on along 99, south or north, doesn't matter. Forgive my final butchered baseball movie quote from Bull Durham. I believe in baseball. I believe in the hanging fastball. Hit it out of the park. I believe in Medford. Let's not only swing at the high heat, twisting into the ground. Let's do the work. Let's sit back, wait for the curve. Let's make our founders proud. Let's look up upon the sky.
Just as a quick comment, I'm very familiar with that speech from Bull Durham, and I thought I was going to have to come down and make you stop
Yeah,
here.
I know, I left
Okay.
it out. Although I do believe the one quote you're thinking.
Yeah. Well done, well done. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Leonie. My partner and I are transplants from Seattle. We both think this valley is spectacularly beautiful. It's hard for me to envision a stadium where Hawthorne Park is right now. I envision a botanical garden with a pollinator garden at one end, a community garden on the other, with additional plants and trees native to this region in the center. I envision also a sculptural fountain long and about chest height with shallow water cascading over at each end, situated right outside the entrance to the imagined botanical garden, a fountain similar to the one on the big boulevard below the Barnes Museum in Philadelphia, one where the little birds can drink when it's hot. I envision visitors attending ball games somewhere near the Rogue X complex, and then going to dinner in Jacksonville, and then returning to their accommodations in Medford or Ashland to spend the night. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you.
Me and my vision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Christine Lochner. In early 2000s, the Lithia headquarters development was going to breathe new life into downtown Medford. Besides the Lithia building, there was a planned parking structure just to the north, and for Lithia employees as well, there was workforce housing planned to the west. This would mean employees would be living downtown and new businesses would move into downtown to serve these residents. Okay, that was in early 2000s. Published 2010, Game Changer. Lithia Motors was planning a new headquarters building to anchor the Commons, a revitalized urban core for downtown Medford centered around a series of park blocks. And then, from the Trib in 2010, Lithia partnered with Medford Urban Renewal Agency to create the Commons, a revitalized project that includes a headquarters and another $14 million in infrastructure and 3 park blocks paid for with Mira dollars. Ben Bulletin, 2012, less than half the size of the original tower proposed a decade ago, Lithia Motors' new headquarters still sparkles above the Commons in downtown Medford. This project was built on a partial area that was empty and was used for parking. That area was replaced by the more attractive park blocks. But since no parking structure was built, Lithia then leased the majority of the spaces in the city's parking garage across 6th Street, and thereby reducing parking available to those who shopped, worked, and volunteered in the surrounding businesses. Just a little history.
Thank you. Could you call the next 3 while our next speaker comes up?
Sid West, Aaron Mahoney, and this one's a little hard to read, but it looks like Dazja Dolan.
Okay, Jessica, we don't have matching t-shirts, but maybe some of you have seen our flyers out there. I wanted to talk about a couple things. First of all, I think I sent you all copies.
Oh, could you just introduce yourself real quick? Sorry.
Regenerative urban renewal that includes a focus in the last decade on building green spaces and having that be the draw to the city, connecting the
sorry
green
to
space.
interrupt. Can you just introduce yourself real quick? Can you introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Ellen Eichhammer.
Okay.
I am interested in regenerative urban renewal and our funds going to improve Hawthorne Park, connecting it to downtown through safe connections and preserving the park for neighborhoods, families, and seniors who live in apartment buildings nearby that use it for free community entertainment. I've never heard of a park being condemned to be used for building something over it, to removing the park. So I'm not an expert in land use laws or urban renewal, but it's a question a lot of people are asking of how that can even occur. And everyone I've talked to, we have over 300 signatures. In the last 2 weeks since your council meeting when you said you wanted to hear from people, people are appalled that you're going to go ahead and spend this huge amount of money, $500,000, for a feasibility study for a park nobody voted for, nobody wants. Have it to vote before you put this kind of money out. Be fiscally responsible to this community who's losing hospitals, who's losing health care, who is low income. We deserve our parks. We deserve our parks to be healthy and safe. We're losing our community university. What are you doing with our money? Improve our community. Don't spend it for feasibility studies. You wouldn't do that with your own budget.
Thank you.
Hi, Council and Mayor. My name is Sid West. I'm at 423 Girard Drive. I moved here a little over a year ago from Phoenix, Arizona. And I worked there in a group called Phoenix Metro Partnership for Arts and Culture. It was an economic development think tank and engine. Coming from a desert, I really value green space. I mean, it's one reason I moved here. And it alarmed me to see the concept and funding for a baseball stadium in that area particularly. Although I don't have any issue with having a baseball stadiums, I think they're wonderful. But where you're proposing it is a concern. I've only recently learned the history of the park, but it seems that over the last decades, many of the things that made it vibrant and special have been eliminated or moved to Rogue X. That means that kids in this older downtown area can't ride their bike to a pool or a skating rink and things like that. There's plenty of studies, they're freely available, that tell us the return on investment for a stadium. And we already know that most of the funds go to the owners of the team and the players. We know that the community's often asked to subsidize the development of those projects. They become responsible for security, maintenance, traffic. In this case, my biggest concern is an urban heat island in that area when you add that much concrete to an area that's green and where you want people to walk because you have retail close by and neighbors. What if we spent those funds on ways to improve it again? And there's been some great ideas forwarded here. I'll just add to that. So significant features would be mitigating the transience issue through existing resources. You've done some wonderful things that could be leveraged. To mitigate the freeway noise, brought up water features, that's one, band shells, things like that, layered vegetation. There's actually a lot of ways to do it. And that's all I need to say.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Erin Mahaney, 1008 Miramar Avenue. I didn't prepare remarks, so I'm not going to be as eloquent probably as I wish I could be, but I wanted to speak about the proposed stadium. I wanted to speak about the proposed feasibility study, and I'm heartened really to hear other people who love this park as I do. It's ironic that I just listened to somebody speak about the lack of things for children to do in our community, and I'm thinking, and yet we took out a beautiful pool at Hawthorne Park. If I had realized when I voted for Rogue X that that was going to be the trajectory, I probably would not have voted for it, because in my mind, Rogue X is not a replacement for a community pool that brought families and children to Hawthorne Park who could ride their bikes or walk to get there. My church just entertained a pastoral candidate from Nebraska over the weekend who came out to check us out, and one of the first questions she asked me was, is there an arboretum here? Guess where I took her? And we walked around and we looked at the old trees and we read the plaques and we talked about the history of the park. It's an irreplaceable green space in the middle of our city. And the idea of losing it forever on this experiment of a baseball stadium is really kind of appalling to me. And I brought this with me. This is a Grants Pass Courier article that was published recently, which talks about a study that has already been done in 2025 by an economist from the Department of Economics, Finance, and Quantitative Analysis at Kennesaw State University in Georgia, on minor league baseball stadiums, and he says he examined 134 stadiums and whether they produced beneficial economic impacts. Literally 0 of them were a success. It never works. So I really question why you have a study, you have multiple studies. I think there are much better ways to spend our money.
Great, thank you. So it doesn't work. Applause, yelling, excited, that's great. By the way, you got an awesome time up there having your piece. Everyone's gonna go. So who's the next 3?
Sean Rhymes, Amanda Meineke, and Abigail Schilling.
I think she did originally, so come on up.
Thank you so much. My name is Dasha Dolan, and I'm a lucky citizen of Medford. I love this town. I moved here 20 years ago, and I moved here for the space and the greenery, and I have been a frequent visitor to Hawthorne Park. I believe when I moved here, there might still have been an old swimming pool, and then I don't know, I don't remember. But anyway, I've seen this park go through different transitions. I belong to Baxter Gym, the gym for people over 50, and everyone I talk to there has no clue what is happening, and they are absolutely appalled when I tell them. People have memories of going to the swimming pool, my neighbors who grew up here are just flabbergasted that this is happening. In this day and age, when we have climate change, when we have fires, when it's so hot in the summer, why not build a wonderful, vibrant swimming pool that would bring people in, that would benefit more citizens than people from outside of the town? I just cannot imagine, I have nothing against baseball, but that is a wrong location. We have plenty of green space outside of Medford downtown. I personally would be repulsed by going to downtown knowing that, there's so much traffic and the noise, the people who live around the park will be affected by the sound. It's just, we don't want it in our town. So please reconsider. It's really a gem that cannot be replaced. If you cut these trees, they are gone forever. We need as much green as we can in this day and age. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Rhymes. My business is Paradise Footwear. Today, I am not here to talk about the configuration of Main Street. I'm here to talk about a deeper issue. I'm here to discuss flamingo safety. On the Friday before the Pear Blossom Festival, we lost our friend Fabio. Before he disappeared, he was one of our beloved pink flamingos who welcomed people into Paradise Footwear from the tree wells on Main Street. I'm sure some are thinking, it's just an $8 piece of blow molded plastic. What's the big deal? In biological terms, flamingos are an indicator species. Losing Fabio is a signal that something is wrong. It starts with losing a flamingo, but if the warning is ignored, and the problem isn't addressed, the next thing you know, a Main Street jewelry store is being vandalized on a Thursday afternoon. Building something nice is hard. Destroying things is easy. What kind of community do we want to create here? I envision a downtown where flamingos are free to congregate without the fear of being abducted. I appreciate your help in creating this environment. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, my name is Amanda Meineke. I'm a Ward 4 homeowner on Ready Avenue, and I work downtown. I watched the April 8th study session about Main Street's bike lane in person, and I was disappointed. I was under the mistaken assumption that evidence and data would be presented, city staff and experts would speak, and we'd all learn something about transportation, bike lane safety, and that would inform your decisions. What I saw and said was half the council members seemed to be checked out or tired of the whole thing. Others used the time to advocate for their preferred outcome. Nobody here expects any one of you to be experts on this. That's why we have staff. That's why we have so much data. That's why you have experts. What emerged, option 2A, manages to disappoint literally everyone. The people who wanted Main Street back the way it was will not get that. The people who wanted a safe, protected bike lane also don't get that. It's a compromise that kept none of the benefits, absorbed all of the conflict, and cost the most. And fiscal responsibility is a topic that keeps coming up here over and over tonight. In the next meeting, you adopted the TSAP, a plan that recommends buffered bike lanes, and later the same evening, you voted to remove the protected bike lane on Main. Going forward, my request would be is that personal preferences take a back seat, experts be listened to, and study sessions actually study something. At this point, it seems best to put the whole thing on a ballot so people can actually vote, taxpayers, people who live here, or put it all on ice until more data can be gathered. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abigail Schilling. I own Medford Co-work Collective at 122 East Main Street. At last month's study session, I heard counselors say we're a car-based community, that our aging population doesn't like change, that maybe decades from now we'll be ready for something different. And yet, this same council just signed a $1.5 million Mura investment in the Mail Tribune building. You passed the EID. You're pursuing Opportunity Zone designation for downtown. You approved innovative new housing at Griffin Creek. You are actively building the future of this city. And thank you for taking full reversion of the Main Street configuration off the table. The downtown business community has noticed. But option 2A appeared at that study session and then was voted on a week later. It costs $1.2 million, and it hasn't been through the kind of comprehensive review a decision this significant deserves. Following this issue feels like shopping at a store where the inventory keeps changing and the return policy is $1 million. 5 years is the industry standard for evaluating whether an infrastructure change is working. Federal Highway Administration and state DOTs across the country use that window because crash and traffic data need that kind of time to produce meaningful trends. We aren't even 3 years in. Making another major decision before we have real data is irresponsible, especially when the data we do have shows that the street is safer, not less safe. So I'm asking you to pause, stop spending money to redo work that's already done, make the low-cost improvements staff identified at the study session, and let the current configuration do its job. Let the work work. Let's revisit when it's been 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three.
We have Brendan Binger, Stephen, sorry, Mayor.
Stephen, come on down.
And Clay Berenson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Brendan Binger, Ward 2, 754 South Holly Street. Taking full reversion of the Main Street corridor off of the table at the last business meeting let many of us breathe a sigh of relief. Thank you. That was meaningful progress. During that meeting, several of you expressed fatigue with discussing this matter. You are not alone. Many of us have grown weary since January 21st. With that in mind, I'm asking you to take one final step. Leave the current configuration in place. End the misery for yourselves and for us. What set us on this long, painful road was reactionary dissatisfaction from a small but loud cohort. That frustration is real, but reactionary frustration cannot be satisfied by a reactionary response. I'm afraid that the option 2A proposal presented at that last meeting is far more likely to exacerbate that cohort than it is to satisfy them. The parking justification for option 2A raised at that meeting does not hold up. The Downtown 2040 parking study found over 800 vacant stalls at peak demand and on-street occupancy at just 41%, measured in November 2023 with the current configuration already in place. There is no parking deficit to solve. That makes option 2A a solution in search of a problem that costs more than $1 million. The current street is performing. It is safe for all users, walkable, attractive, and lively. Retaining it guarantees those outcomes at zero cost. Any redesign guarantees expenses, puts proven safety outcomes at risk, and reopens the wound. If you feel compelled to do something, let it be the surgical, iterative improvements staff has already designed. That plan is ready, low cost, and directly responsive to community feedback without dismantling what is already working. Put us all out of our misery. Be done with this. No more discussion, no more options. Let yourselves and city staff focus time, energy, and taxpayer dollars on the many other pressing matters facing Medford. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Crutchfield. I'm a White City resident. I stand behind that guy there, and everybody else about this baseball stadium. I actually think that instead of it being in the middle of Medford, that we should move it outside of Medford. Out there, maybe South Medford, where like the other baseball fields are, maybe making one of those into the actual stadium. I think that would benefit both Phoenix and Medford with people visiting and stuff. And so I agree with what they're saying. And sorry, I'm nervous. I actually know a few of you personally, so it's pretty cool to see you guys up there, especially you. Me and Zach know each other for quite some time, practically related anyway. So, which is really cool. I didn't even know he was here, like up there with you guys. It was amazing. I looked up and I saw him.
You're very close,
I
I can tell.
I was like, what? Yeah, I don't know his personal life and everything like that, so. But let's see, I got that much time left. And then more funding for schools. I'm nervous for my kid to go to school this year. And it's basically because of the fact that we rank so low in the educational bracket. More funding for the schools and more protection is what I'm focused on. I don't want to get a call that my son was shot by some idiot that decided to come over here. And sorry, I'm going to get emotional here. It's weird. I don't normally get this way. But I'm just worried about him. I'm worried about everyone's kids. I'm worried about his kid. I don't want my kid to do that either. So I keep them in activities and stuff like that. I'm sorry. My time's up. I didn't mean to get emotional. Sorry.
You're fine.
You guys have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate you coming.
Mayor Mike Z and Council, Clay Berenson, Ward 2. I just wanted to swoop in here real quick and tip my hat off to those of you who got behind the pop-up concert this last weekend. It was a huge boon for downtown. Thousands of people descended in downtown, and then after the show, they went out and they spent money in our local businesses. Also a big thanks to city staff who pulled it together on a Saturday to make all that stuff happen. It exemplifies the potential that we have in our downtown corridor, and I personally would love to see a lot more of it. Though it was not the optimal arrangement, maybe a little more time to plan would have been a little better, but it was the optimal outcome, and all the people that came downtown was super sweet. And that's me as a business owner, me as a president of the DMA. I think that it's something that I would like to see this discussion, or maybe some discussions happen to where we might be able to help facilitate some more of this type of programming in our downtown corridor, because we have this gem that is there. And I would like to see more use of it and offer more opportunities for people to come enjoy music and our downtown and all that fun stuff. So with that, thank you all, and thank you city staff, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You gonna stay for the rest of it? Is that it?
We just had one more, Your Honor. It's
One more.
Vinnie Dominic.
I'm going to introduce him real quick. So my name is Kevin Stein, City Councilor in Medford. I wanted to say quick things, tagging on what Clay said. Personally, I want to thank Deputy Chief Trevor Arnold, Recreation Supervisor Sandy Sherman, Parks and Open Space Manager Tim Stevens, and Recreational Leader Jason Campbell for showing up at 10:30 on a Saturday. And I'm pretty sure they did not have that in their plans to start the process of having an event some hours later. Also, I know we had at least 4 police officers that got called in. There's an EMS squad. Thanks to Rockeferry for their work as well with putting on the event. And you had a security company that provided bodies as well. There's 4,000 to 6,000 people there, depending on your eyesight. And what I saw a lot of in the moment and after it was a lot of positivity of people taking pictures, posting it up, taking videos, and a whole lot of wow, kind of like Clay said there, what's next? So obviously getting there was not the most simple process, but there was a unique opportunity, which I am very thankful that the city, with the assets that we had, were able to accomplish. So I want to introduce Vinnie Dominic, who's the promoter of what we had, who originally had a plan to have it in the mall, and then things kind of went by the wayside. So I'll give it to Vinnie.
Hello, my name is Vinnie Dominic. Thanks for having me. I know everybody had a bunch of stuff prepared. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, actually, everybody that was involved. Police, Kevin, Sandy, Eric, Julian, my team of people, Rockeferry's team of volunteers, couldn't have done it. And, you know, the early 3 a.m. call with Kevin to make it happen, it really, you know, and then waking up at 6 in the morning, making everything happen. I just want to say thank you so much for even allowing us to do something like that. And like the last guy said, the economic impact it had downtown. I heard restaurants were selling out of food, bars were selling out of drinks. There was thousands of people downtown, probably staying at hotels. You know, I would love the opportunity if the city would allow me to bring more of that here, because I have the capability to. It's just the resources necessary to make it happen. I feel like we could make it happen. And, you know, the youth, everybody around here needs this space of live music in town where it's not just at a bar venue where kids can't get in, you know, has to be all inclusive.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
That's all I had. Thank you.
You have more? No. You steal all his time, and then you're going to come back for more? All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Regardless of look, we want this to go clean. We want everyone to at least have an opportunity to say their piece. And what you share, even if it seems to be counter what the city's council is leaning towards, is very, very important. And we appreciate you guys coming out and sharing all that and all your ideas. So thank you very much. With that, wait, I think we have minutes. Yes, Mr. Quinn.
I definitely was listening carefully to the people who were concerned about Hawthorne Park, and I just want to, that money for the study isn't spent. We're having a request for people to propose to us how they could spend it if we give it to them. So that's not money gone yet, and possibly not at all. There's no arrangement to build anything on the park yet, and may well not be. So don't be unhappy with us yet, because the decision isn't made at all yet, and you might be surprised at the decision or happy about the decision. So don't get too upset, but keep talking to us, is the message I have for you. And thanks very much for you guys coming. Please come every time we talk about it, so we'll be reminded.
Okay. All right. And in fairness, even if we make you happy on one thing, I'm sure we're going to make you upset on something else. So stick around. Agenda item 50, we have all received the draft minutes from the April 15th, 2026 regular meeting. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections to those minutes? All right, seeing none, minutes will stand as submitted. There are no items on the consent calendar, which is our standard item, agenda item 60. We will move then straight to 80, ordinances and resolutions, which there are 2 ordinances for consideration tonight. Mr. Mitten.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 80.1 is Council Bill 2026-30, an ordinance approving and authorizing an amendment to the Municipal Services Agreement with the Coquille Indian Tribe regarding the 2.4-acre trust parcel located at 2375 South Pacific Highway.
Thank you very much. Anyone like a staff report, have a question, or ready for a motion? Oh, ho. What are we doing here? Yeah, we'll catch that later. How about? Yeah, Kevin? Kevin, let's do this later. Is there a motion?
I move approval of ordinance number 2026-30.
Second.
All right, motion and second, any discussion? All right, seeing none, will you call the roll?
Mike Curlinger, Garrett West.
Yes.
Mike Curlinger,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
and John Quinn.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
All right, that passes. 80.2, Mr. Mitten?
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 80.2 is 2026-31. An ordinance approving and authorizing an amendment to the construction manager general contractor contract with Sladen Constructors, Inc., per section 2.4, to perform early work package number 2 of the Medford Regional Water Reclamation Facility Upgrade Project in an amount not to exceed $25,864,461.
Great, and just as for clarification, on this particular item, I don't think it's a true conflict, but just due to what I do for professionally, I'm going to recuse from participating in this and turn it over to Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mitten. Would anyone like a staff report, or do we have a motion on this item?
I would like a staff report.
May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Dan Worth, Public Works Director. What I'm here to ask you to consider approving is a contract amendment of about $25.9 million with Sladen Construction. This is in regard to our regional water reclamation facility. Sladen is our CMGC, basically the contractor that's building this facility for us. They have that position under the terms of a contract that was awarded in April of last year. The scope of that contract is to build the whole project, but we're doing it in pieces. As the design progresses, we identify things that need to happen now so that the bulk of construction can happen according to the timeline that we have that really kicks off with the main construction at the beginning of next year. This is the second of up to 4 early work packages under that contract that we're going to be bringing to you. Wrong way. The NIPD's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, that is the permit issued by the state under which the reclamation facility operates. The whole project is designed to meet this permit and its requirements for the water that we discharge into the Rogue River. The second bullet, early work package 2, is a very small part of the whole project. That's to install new infrastructure that we need to have online in order to allow the major part of the construction to go forward according to schedule. This just shows you a table, secondary clarifier for that first early work package. You approved that in January. That was to buy materials to do what we're asking for approval to do now. Secondary clarifier, it's an important part of our process. We have to build this now because it will be impossible to build it later when we're building the improvements to meet the permit requirements. The stormwater pump station, we are going to, when we do the major construction, get rid of the place that the stormwater goes to now, so we have to build a pump station to handle it a different way, and we have to do all that before we start that major part of the construction. And you can see early work package 3, we will probably bring to you sometime this summer. That is to procure, it says long lead electrical equipment. It's a generator. It's a 1.5 megawatt generator, which is hard to imagine, but about 1,000 times the size of any generator I've ever bought before. But that is about a 2-year lead time. So we may be coming to you, we'll likely be coming to you with a request to order that And then item number 4 may or may not happen. As the schedule develops, we may not to get an early, need to get an early start on the civil work, but that is a possibility. And this is a lengthy slide with a lot of words on it that tells you what's in the scope of this early work package. The first 2 bullets are really the key parts, and those are the 2 things I've already mentioned to you. The secondary clarifier that we have to build now because we won't be able to get to it later, and the stormwater pump station. So with that, recommendation is to approve the amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. West?
So just to clarify, this is continuing work on the regional water reclamation facility that we've been doing for a while now.
This is continuing work. It's not an addition to the scope. The entire scope for the project was in that construction management agreement that's been approved for over a year now. This is just the way that contract works, as opposed to a low bid where you go through 2 years of design, then bid it out. This allows us to start constructing in increments, and this is the second increment.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlinger?
So the request for package number 2 is for 25.9. We have in Fund 533 32.2. Is the full 32.2 that's budgeted in the fund? What am I trying to say? Is this coming in under budget, basically, this work package number 2? Or are there other things included in the 32 million that's budgeted?
The 32 million that's in the report that has been budgeted to date is to cover this, earlier work package 1, some of the design work that we're doing, and some of the pre-construction work that this contractor is doing. So there's more to come.
Okay.
We're budgeted for, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 million for the year, and then it'll be rebudgeted for the additional amount in the next, well, there's an additional amount next year as well.
Okay.
So the budget will be we've got it planned out. We've got a rate structure to meet the needs of the future budget amounts. And to your first question, we're on track.
Cool.
This is slightly higher, about 7% higher than what our estimate was a year ago when we did estimates at 30% design review, but we've got contingency built into that budget that allows us to handle that.
Mr. Val?
I just add to Mr. Worth to help Mr. Curlinger. The 32 million in Fund 533 is Dan spoke to, but there's also additional funds that are helping to build the project. That's not the only fund for the work that's anticipated this year.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I move approval of Council Bill 2026-31.
Second.
Any further discussion? Winnie, can you call the roll?
Garrett West,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Mike Curlinger,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
and Kevin Stein.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Thank you very much. That passes. Moving on to public hearings. You come back?
All right, so before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind everyone that the rules of decorum previously outlined are still applicable. Violation of the decorum policy may result in your removal from the chambers. This evening, we have 2 legislative hearings. If you would like to speak during one of these hearings, please complete a blue public comment form to be called forward. Comments for administrative or legislative hearings are limited to 4 minutes per individual group or organization. 90.1.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 90.1 is Council Bill 2026-32. An ordinance amending sections 8.031, 10.012, 10.314, 10.334, 10.337, 10.811, and 10.816 of the Medford Municipal Code to make changes necessary to comply with House Bill 2717, Senate Bill 1099, and House Bill 3560 related to child care facilities.
Great. May we have a staff report, please?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. It's your Plan Director, Michelle King. Kayla Parr has been at a couple of your meetings, and she was introduced when she was first hired back in August, but this is her first formal presentation, so I wanted to reintroduce her to you. And again, she started in August, and she's worked in
the Bureau of Land Management and brings experience from several public lands agencies across the country and has put down roots in Medford with her partner and their dog in the new home. So just a quick introduction again, and she's working under Carla Palladino in our Long Range Division and has taken on the Child Care Amendment hearing items you're going to hear tonight. So I'll give it to Kim.
Thanks, Michelle. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Kayla Parr with your Planning Department, as you just heard. I will be introducing this topic of a series of Child Care Code amendments. It's assigned file number DCA-26-045. So what I'll go over during this presentation is the overall proposal, the authority and criteria that govern this code amendment process. I'll give you some background and legislative context. We'll talk about what the existing code looks like and what the proposed amendments are. We'll talk about the revised ordinance that you all should have received prior to the meeting today. We'll touch briefly on agency and public comments, and then we'll finish with a recommendation. So we are proposing a legislative code amendment to chapters 8 and 10 of the Medford Municipal Code, and this is to ensure compliance with state legislation as it relates to child care facilities and programs. This is a Type 4 legislative amendment where Planning Commission is the recommending body and City Council is the approving authority. The applicable criteria can be found in Code Section 10.218. They are also included in your staff report, and all have been found to either be satisfied or not applicable. So moving on to background and legislative context. In the legislative session for the state of Oregon in 2023, House Bill 2717 was passed, and that bill relates to outdoor nature-based child care facilities. And then in 2025, we saw Senate Bill 1099, which relates to preschools and places of worship, and we also saw House Bill 3560, which is a more general child care facility siting expansion bill. In House Bill 2717 was enacted with an emergency clause, making it effective upon passage in July of 2023, and Senate Bill 1099 was also enacted with an emergency clause, making it effective in June of 2025. So in instances where the local code conflicts with provisions in a bill, then the statute applies directly. To the best of my knowledge, obviously our code has not been updated to reflect these bill provisions, but to the best of my knowledge, we have not received any applications where we would have to apply the statute directly. So we haven't had that situation come up since these bills have been passed. And this will bring us into compliance, so we shouldn't have to worry about that moving forward. And as far as House Bill 3560 goes, it was passed in the 25 session, but its effective date is not until January 27. So we're going to be a little ahead of the curve for that one. So let's dig a little deeper into what the bills do. House Bill 2717, once again, that's the outdoor nature-based child care bill. It adds this specific term, outdoor child care program, to the definition of child care facility. These are certified programs that operate primarily outdoors in a natural environment, and that's very integral to their operational model. That bill also directed the Department of Early Learning and Care to adopt specific licensing standards for these types of programs, which they have done. And something else to be aware of is that these programs have specific space requirements that may affect how we make local land use decisions. And so to dig a little deeper into the space requirements, the programs do require a rather large footprint. It's about 4,000 square feet of outdoor space per child. It can be on public or private land, but the program must identify a permanent location. Can't just move from one park to the next each week. They are authorized to use an indoor toilet, a portable toilet, or a toilet on public land, but they're also required to identify emergency shelter space. So those are all things that we'd want to take into account when we consider where we allow these types of programs. You can have one staff per 8 children for school-age kids, up to 16 kids total, and you can have one staff per 10 children, one staff per 8 children for preschool, and one staff per 10 children for school-aged. And you're looking at a maximum amount of 16 to 20 kids per program there. And so what does this look like in the real world? So here we have a snapshot of Bear Creek Park. As you can see on the left side of the screen, there's an orange polygon, which represents the amount of space that would be needed if you wanted to operate one of these programs with 4 children. So that's 0.37 acres. We'll increase that size a little bit. For 8 children, you're at 0.73. And then this is the amount of space you would need for 16 children, which is the max for those younger preschool age kids. So that's a pretty considerable amount of space. However, we have been discussing this with our Parks Department, and they're confident that they would be ready to allow one of these programs in our public parks because we have held a facility use agreement with Elements Nature School at Lithia and Driveway Field since 2020. And so we would use a similar use agreement with any future outdoor childcare programs. And now let's take a look at what a home-based business operating an outdoor childcare program would look like. Here we have a snapshot of about an 8,000 square foot lot. We've got an existing structure that has a footprint of approximately 2,300 square feet. And so once you remove that structure footprint from the entire space in the lot, you're left with about 5,700 square feet, which would be available as outdoor space for an outdoor childcare program. That only allows you to have one child, assuming we're not running around with half kids during an outdoor program or something. So we'll round down there and say that that would give you one kid. All that to be said, while we do intend to allow these as home-based businesses, it's very unlikely that there would be many properties across the city that would have adequate space to serve more than 1 to 3 kids at a time. Okay, moving on to Senate Bill 1099. So this requires local governments to allow preschool or pre-kindergarten education on land where places of worship are allowed. So that would be an outright permitted use. However, we are allowed to still impose reasonable regulations concerning characteristics such as parking, access, or public facility adequacy. And finally, House Bill 3560 requires us to allow child care centers as outright permitted uses in specific residential, commercial, and industrial zones. It also modifies the definition of child care center to include additional terms beyond outdoor child care program. There's other terms that we'll go over later on in the presentation. And then it prohibits us from applying additional conditions of approval before allowing a child care center to co-locate with a conditional institutional use in residential zones. So that's a bit of a mouthful. What does that last bullet point mean? If we have an institutional use in a residential zone, which is typically like a place of worship, a public or private school, or a community center, and we have already required a conditional use permit for that institutional use, we cannot then require additional conditions of approval for a daycare center that wants to co-locate there. So that's kind of to break down that last bullet point. And I would like to mention before I move on that there is a little bit of overlap between this last bullet of House Bill 3560 and Senate Bill 1099. Because under the Medford Municipal Code, places of worship, which are addressed in Senate Bill 1099, are considered an institutional use. So it's a bit of a confusing topic, but I think we've addressed it in the proposed amendments. So let's move on to that. So for these next few slides, we'll have the code section at the top. I'll summarize the amendments, and then in the bottom left of the screen, you'll notice that the House bill that's relevant to this particular amendment's listed. So for Chapter 8, we are proposing modification to the home-based business license applications, specifically the review criteria related to requirements for outdoor storage or location of business activities. We are proposing to exempt outdoor childcare programs from these requirements because outdoor storage can sometimes be required for the operational model of an outdoor childcare program. They'll keep like hats and boots for rain weather for kids outside. So we want to exempt them from those kinds of limitations of not being able to store things outside. And then generally home-based business activities must be in the interior of a dwelling or structure. Obviously an outdoor program is not going to be able to comply with that, so it would be exempt. And then finally we add a provision that talks about the state licensing requirements for these programs. Moving on to Chapter 10, the definitions for child care center and child daycare home. They don't currently include certain terms introduced by the House bills from both of the legislative sessions. So we've already touched base on what an outdoor child care program is. Preschool recorded programs and school age recorded programs, those generally operate on like a partial day basis. They have somewhat less regulatory requirements than normal full day child care services provide. And so those need to be incorporated into the terms just to kind of expand what we are allowing. And then a parent cooperative is generally a collection of parents who take care of children on a rotating basis. So we need to add those terms to our definitions. And I'm going to hop a little out of sequence here as we move through Chapter 10, but discussing the special use regulation section up front will probably clarify things moving forward. So we are proposing to remove this special use regulation section that's currently dedicated to childcare. The reason for that is the majority of the requirements we have listed in that section right now are already addressed through state licensing requirements. And so we're wanting to remove an element of redundancy there from the state level down to the local. And there is one provision in there about driveway standards where we require a continuous flow of traffic for certain sizes of childcare facilities. However, planning staff has determined that that's really more appropriate for institutional uses such as schools. Daycare facilities don't often just drop kids off on the sidewalk. Like, they're normally taking the kids inside and handing them off. So we thought that, it was maybe time to pull that provision as well. So looking at permitted uses in residential zones. If you look at the child daycare center row, you can see that currently child daycare centers are a conditional use subject to special use regulations in all residential zones. However, if you look to the right-hand column, you can see a strike through that cross-reference to the special use section. And so that will effectively remove the S from all of those designations in the table, and child daycare centers will become just a conditional use in all SFR zones. Now, if you look, except for the multifamily, which is in the green box. So House Bill 3560 specifically requires that we allow these child daycare centers as outright permitted uses in multifamily residential zones. So that's highlighted there. And then we've introduced a new use type called child daycare center when they're co-located with institutional uses. And remember, that includes places of worship as well. So we're ticking the boxes for both Senate Bill 1099 and House Bill 3560 by introducing that new use type. And so that'll be permitted subject to special uses in all residential zones, and it'll cross-reference a different special use section, which is our institutional use section. And we'll go over that soon. Permitted uses in the public park zone. Currently, all child daycare services are permitted subject to special uses. Once again, we're removing that special use regulation section that was dedicated to child care. We will allow child daycare services in parks, and they will be subject to site plan and architectural commission review, with the exception of outdoor child care programs moving forward. Uses in commercial and industrial zoning districts. Currently, all child daycare services are permitted subject to special use regulations in all of the commercial zones and the light industrial zone. We have removed that special use regulation once again, so that'll go from PS to P in those zones. And then if you look at the general industrial, House Bill 3560 requires us to allow these services as outright permitted, so it's gone from prohibited to permitted. And things are going to remain the same in the heavy industrial. They're going to be prohibited. So here's that institutional use, special use section. We've added provisions for child daycare centers when they're co-located with institutional uses. It basically just clarifies that we can't apply additional siting and development standards beyond what we've already done to the institutional use itself. And it also identifies that kindergarten through grade 12 education does not apply to the exemption from siting and development standards. There's a distinction between like preschool and lower and pre-K or kindergarten and above. So as far as the revised ordinance goes, we did make some changes just to clarify language related to outdoor child care programs by standardizing the terminology a little bit, and then updating the definitions to include that terminology. And then we also included some new language in the special use regulations section for institutional uses. We replaced place of worship with institutional use. We have not received any agency or public comments for these code amendments. And Planning Commission did vote on April 9th to forward a favorable recommendation. That was a unanimous 9-0. And our recommendation is to approve the revised ordinance as submitted. I do have a recommended motion for you, but I'll take any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions for staff? Mike Kerlinger.
Yeah, a couple. You talked about, I think it was specifically regarding the driveway. Daycare use versus institutional use, like a school needs a turnaround, but a daycare doesn't. Is there a clear dissemination between where that changes?
Like, what's the distinction between an institutional use or
Yeah,
like a public school versus like a
How many
child care
kids have to
facility?
get dropped off in the morning before it goes to institutional?
Well, so it's based on the type of services provided, not on size.
Okay.
Right? So a child care center is providing a specific service, and that's normally defined at a state level, depending on the type of licensing they need. Whereas a school, you know, it's educational only in nature. So it would be depending on the services being
That makes
provided.
sense. Yeah. Regarding the public, sorry, I had a couple questions. Is it okay to just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bogart the meeting. Outdoor schools using public space, like the agreement we have at Lithian Driveway, are we inherently required to sign those agreements if someone wants to do it there, or to allow the park or any public space to be used for this, or is that a means by which we can certify that use?
We are not required by like state statute to require a facility use agreement. That is something that we are imposing. We're still allowing the use outright. We are just having an agreement in place to govern that use. So it's not getting in the way. We're not saying, oh, you can't do this at all. We're just adding a little bit of sidebars on how it's being done.
But for example, if someone said, hey, I do want to do an outdoor childcare at Bear Creek, at the example you used, I understand this is a framework that they could do that. Are we required as the city to say, yes, you can do that here?
Oh, we are not. Outdoor childcare programs, it's kind of been an internal discussion across departments that we want to introduce this to the city. It is not a state requirement that we have to. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it
Sorry.
does. I mean, I'm curious. I always ask, like, hey, why is this a bad idea when I come up with ideas? And none of these seem crazy bad. It seems like there could be some potential unintended consequences, but I also don't think we have much of a choice based on state statute. So I don't know if they're worth diving into.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica? And then
I just had a quick one.
Quinn?
Did you have something
I
to
had
say?
a follow-up to Mr. Curlinger's comment. I'd say the biggest reason why we may want to, because if someone does it today, we don't have a tool to say you can't, and then there's no sideboards. If someone shows up with a park with a bunch of kids, I don't know what we do about this. This way, we've got a way to say, hey, if you're going to do this, you got to go through these sideboards.
Or start doing fabrication in the industrial light zoning.
Hey, good life skills.
We do have quite a few places of worship, I think, already that offer preschool services. Does this impact them in any way?
No, because if anything, the bills that have been passed, they strip our ability to impose additional conditions of approval or requirements. And I believe that a lot of the child care centers that are already co-located with those places of worship, you know, they've already gone through the permitting process. And so it's not like the statute is introducing higher regulation. If anything, it's lowering it. So I don't foresee a problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I don't know who had it up first, but I'll just go Quinn, Keating, because it goes in order for me.
So, Kayla, with the outdoor schools, it would be on public property. I understand we're making sideboards, that's fine. But what if even with the sideboards in a particular location, we don't want it? What are the criteria under which we could say, no, is this a P or a C?
Right. Currently, as the proposed amendment is written, it would be permitted.
Could you show us the little chart that says that? So you have it down as a P and you struck the S because we're
Right.
using the S that's borrowed from the state licensing requirements.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
We're not including our own S because there's statewide S's that control the criteria.
Right. So the regulatory requirements at a state level for these programs is extremely rigorous.
Okay.
I thought about including some of the details here, but golly, you could write a dissertation on them. So it's a very lengthy process to even get licensed for one of these. Not to say that it hasn't happened. There was previously one down in Blue Heron Park in Phoenix. They have since, I think, agreed to move because they didn't have a proper facility use agreement in place, I believe, is the general gist of it. But as the proposed code amendment is written right now, there wouldn't be any pathway for us to deny them if they were still willing to sign the facility use agreement.
Is there any state law that prohibits us from turning the P to a C?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Then I'm going to be suggesting that we do that.
Okay.
That what I mean is instead of an outright permitted use with state imposed criteria, it would be conditional use so that planning or the director, depending on what type of approval it is, would have a say whether to say yay or nay.
Well, I would like to point out that prior to this amendment, child daycare services within the public park zone were permitted subject to special use regulations, but the special use regulations didn't really address anything that would come up in a public park. So we basically been allowing these. You can go ahead, Eric.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So we've basically been allowing these, without conditional uses of approval up to this date. We do have site plan and architectural review that's required for other types of childcare. Perhaps, yeah.
Let's Eric, go ahead and
I do want to jump on to Mr. Quinn's thing because there's two separate things I want to separate here, whether it's permitted use under zoning and whether as the property owner we can say now we don't want to sign. Just because it's a permitted use under zoning doesn't mean we have to approve everyone who asks for a facility use agreement. We use facility use agreements for indoor spaces at Santos Center, at Rogex, et cetera. And I think as a matter of the landlord having rights over the property, not as a matter of land use, we can decline to sign a facility use agreement with someone where we think it's a bad use of it, just like we can decline to let someone do their martial arts club at the Santos Center.
So who would be the deciding person to decide whether we sign such an agreement?
Typically, Rich Rosenthal is the one who oversees that for parks facilities.
And if we make it a conditional use, who would be the deciding authority?
For land use, it would be the planning commission. We'd still have that situation where it's a city facility, so we'd have kind of a double approval unless the planning commission is going to tell Mr. Rosenthal what he should or should not approve. I haven't thought through that idea.
Yeah, so John, can I just follow up? You're just having concerns about this use in a public facility being granted too wide of a ability to, I'm not going to say do whatever they want, but just special conditions aren't good enough for a public park facility. And does what he says about the fact that that has to have an agreement, does that satisfy that concern?
State-defined special conditions may or may not be sufficient, but in any event, they're necessarily a secession of any authority we have to put special conditions.
So
because they're incorporating state law without us having any say. I understand the distinction very well.
Okay, and that doesn't quite cover it?
Well, I haven't had an answer of who would decide it if it's a C. What kind of a use? Of course, the land use is public, so it's not really a land use issue, it's a contract issue.
So there's two separate issues, land use approval and contract approval. The planning commission would do the land use approval through the conditional use permit. The contract approval would be for Mr. Rosenthal.
Okay.
But as written, that is not the case, correct?
So as written, it's a permitted use for land use, so it wouldn't need to go to planning commission. It's still, the signing of the facility use agreement would go through the same facility use agreement review process that we use for the Santo Center and Rogax. And so that would still go to Mr. Rosenthal, and I believe we could still decline that if someone had proposed something we thought was inconsistent with how we wanted to use our parks.
Even if
as a matter of contract, not as a matter of land use.
Even if the planning commission gave a conditional use permit, Mr. Rosenthal could still, in his discretion, say, thank you, but no. They're not the boss of Mr. Rosenthal. We are, they aren't.
I guess, well, technically, the
city
city could
manager
appeal
is.
the decision.
Well, yeah, but we could say, no, you can't.
Well, with the size of the code amendment we're doing, I think you bring up a very good point. How do we get past it tonight?
Make it a C?
But then it's still subject to planning commission approval, which may or may not coincide with what the parks director would recommend or feel comfortable with.
Well, you could structure it so you don't get to have a contract unless there's a CUP, and if there's a CUP, the city still has the prerogative whether to sign it. It would be two levels. I just don't like it being willy-nilly and not publicly discussed.
So
Not willy-nilly, but outright permitted.
No, I follow your point.
So when, this is a new process, but we envision working with the Parks Department and getting their input on such an application before it would go to Planning Commission. So if there's a park that already has 3 outdoor schools, or it has events that aren't congruent with outdoor schools, the Parks Department would be consulted with, and they would say, this is not the appropriate place for this use. And then they would make a recommendation, and staff would make a recommendation to a hearing body like Planning Commission would say this is not the appropriate use for this park because there's a variety of reasons. We would give the reasons. So it really, I think it starts with if the city facility is an appropriate facility, if there's enough space, if it makes sense, before it even goes any further. Before it would go to a public hearing, we would want parks to agree that this is a use that the city wants to encourage and that we would agree with the child care facility operator that they should be there.
So let's say you go through that pre-process, and it seems to check the boxes that at least whoever's there wants checked, and Mr. Rosenthal says, yeah, sure, and planning says no.
I don't know that planning would say no if it met all
But
the
it
other
does in my
criteria.
hypothetical.
I don't foresee that hypothetical. I mean, there would have to be some really extraordinary circumstance in which we would say no.
You never had a planning commission member that surprised you with no answers?
Usually they have some reasons for a no, and I can't imagine.
Not anymore, I guess.
Yeah, so, I mean,
You have a counselor who surprises you with no now.
sometimes, yeah. But I think the plan in place is one that's collaborating with parks and has the city's best interest in front, so that we're not signing up people for something that's not appropriate.
Well, I should hope everyone always has the city's best
I would hope
interest.
so, yeah.
But it's as you define it, or as one defines it, not you, of course, Michelle.
But does that help answer that question?
So,
No, but it was nice hearing from you.
but in summary, the way it's written as permitted now is somewhat,
We
is
would-
that fair or not? Because there will be conditions that come, or a recommendation from staff that goes through. Do you guys feel like the city's protected?
Yeah, we'd still require them to go talk to parks. We'd still make sure it's an appropriate location. We'd still have that communication before they could move forward. So I'm not concerned.
Absolutely. I've been working with the Parks Department and Mr. Rosenthal on facility use agreements for indoor facilities for years. I think it's a well-run program. I think it protects the city well.
And so, Mr. Quinn, I think your point is a very good point. If you want to, I guess, propose any amendment, I think that's all on the table, but here, I think we're good. Did you need any other follow-up on that?
Me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I still have a question, if that's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
I just want to bring it down to basics a little bit more. Does this mean a private organization could become a licensed outdoor facility and then decide that they want to use our parks and we are obligated to let them use it? Is that correct or no?
once again, so
Just in
it
layman's
would be
terms,
permitted from a land use perspective, but as Mr. Mitten has explained, they would still be required to agree with our facility use agreement terms. And so we would have the control to either, I mean, we would still have the control as a landowner to allow the use or not.
Right, I'm just trying to make sure that we are not losing the ability to say what happens in our parks, and the public would not be allowed to use that portion of the park because someone else is using it for a business.
I believe we could say no. We actually have an administrative hearing process when we've declined someone from having an event on a parks facility where they could go through an administrative hearing process if they felt the denial was improper. But we can simply refuse to sign a facility use agreement or refuse to rent space to somebody, then give them due process about the denial. That's an established mechanism. It's my belief that would apply here. And I think that protects our ability to say no if someone proposes a use that we feel is inconsistent with parks, or if we have concerns about the operator, we can go through that denial process.
Right, I guess my concern is just that we're going to limit the public's usage of a park in favor of a private organization in any case.
And that is absolutely something that I think parks would look at when deciding whether or not to approve or deny.
Okay.
So my question is somewhat in the similar vein, but I hope to provide a little more clarification. So in order to have one of these, they have to file a land use application with planning. Is that right?
No, there would not be there's not an existing, nor would there be a land use application. But us as the property owners would impose the facility use agreement, which is where
So there's no land use process, there's just the facilities use agreement.
Right, because it's permitted outright, it doesn't need to go through an application process.
Okay. In other communities, there's sometimes like a ZIS, a zoning information sheet. I'm guessing we don't do that internally in the city of Medford to verify that a use is authorized.
We have zoning verification letters that are required. At a state level, I'm not familiar with every single program that requires proof of a zoning verification letter.
You need a business license.
Business license?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that will help.
That makes sense. For the use agreement that we have, so we have a template for a use agreement already drafted up, is that?
Correct. We have the existing use agreement for the Elements Nature School that's operating at Lithia and Driveway.
Okay, cool. And for these outdoor programs, so it looks like they can exist in public parks. I don't know whether in the city of Medford we have private parks or whether we have an existing use for private parks. Do they have to be in parks or can they just be?
They could be anywhere that has adequate space to support the program.
Okay, cool. And then in one of your beginning slides, you had the acreage calculations per student. With the acreage that is used for these outdoor programs, does that acreage become exclusively for the use of the programs, or can members of the public still?
I mean, I think, if we wanted, as the property owners, as the city, if we wanted to say that it was exclusive use for the program, I think we may have that within our ability. I don't know why we would.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of how outdoor nature-based programs operate at a state level, it is shared use with public spaces.
Okay.
They do not get exclusive use of those spaces if it's in public areas.
So we're not losing park space.
Correct.
By passing this. Okay, and then my last question is, so it seems like with the state, there's a lot of licensing requirements and hoops they have to jump through, either first or concurrently with this to get up and running.
We would require them to show us proof of their licensing prior to coming to us. I mean, now they obviously would, if say they were wanting to use a public park, they would identify that area and maybe talk to us during the process of the licensing requirements.
Sure.
In which case it might happen, before the business license process comes into play. But if somebody was off doing this on private property, then they would probably already have property owner consent, blah, 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 blah. They would get their license in its entirety and then come to us for a business license.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe the best mechanism is they start their applications with the state and they're doing a pre-application conference or something. With
Right.
Planning to just put everything together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, John, give you last word on that, and then I'll go ahead and open public hearing, and then we'll also be able to follow back up with staff as needed after that.
Good, Mike, thanks. So my concern is this: in the last 6 months, we've had a lot of situations where the public has had a huge amount to tell us about how land is being used and how things are being done. Hilltop, the public wanted to tell us quite a bit. Main Street, the public wanted to tell us quite a bit. Use of Hawthorne Park and possibly losing that green space to some other use, they wanted to tell us about. If this is a P, it's outright permitted, subject to the contract. There's no public hearing of the type you would have in the Planning Commission. And the vibrancy of what we've been having the last few months with these various issues, and frankly, the reason I voted no to 2A, because it was just slipped in without much notice, would be a problem that would continue if we leave it as a P. So because I think it's important to hear from the public in all things, and because they get notice and opportunity to be heard and come talk to us as they have so much, especially lately, I'm going to make a motion to amend to change the P to a C so that we do have a planning commission role and a public hearing about changes. So that's what I think.
Okay, we'll take that as advance notice of an amendment.
Yeah.
John?
Mr. Mayor, given the volume of questions and the issues are being brought, if council is not comfortable with making a decision on this item, maybe we should delay this item, bring it back to a study session, or have further dialogue if that's what council desires.
Mr. Kerlinger?
I move to deny John's idea.
Which John?
Oh, sorry, that John.
All right, mister.
You're Quinn. I think conceptually, most of this is being done. I mean, it needs to be done. We need to line up with state statute. This seems like the only point of, I'm not even going to say contention, just debate. I actually totally understand Mr. Quinn's point of like not wanting to abdicate some decision making. On the flip side, we trust Rich to let car shows and soccer games and Frisbee tournaments and whatever the heck else goes on in the parks. I don't know why we don't trust him to vote on childcare.
Yeah, perfect. Here's what I think we do. We get the public hearing in. If there's any just follow-up questions, I think we know where the rub is. Get a motion. If there's a proposed amendment, vote on the amendment, and then continue to move it forward. Unless, at least I heard on this end, we don't need to talk about this anymore. We can go through it. We could do a straw poll if we want to kick it around, but we kind of know what the issue is going to be and what the action is going to be. So unless I see 5-ish hands that go up that says I'm worried about, I need to talk about this more, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
I'm not opposed to making Kayla really earn her first council presentation.
Yeah, she's doing a great job.
But I don't want to bring it back for another study session.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I'm going to find my place again here. We're going to say there's no more questions now. Do not run off. And I will open the public hearing. At this point, anyone wishing to speak on this subject, please come forward as called. Please identify yourself for the record before speaking. Did anyone fill out a form? They did not. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And we can do, I think we kind of know what, we've already had our pre-discussion prior to motion. What I'd rather, so what we don't want to do is change where we're at in this original motion. So I would entertain that to start with. Kevin Stein.
I move to approve Council Bill 2026 TAC 32.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion and second.
Clarification of the motion on the table. I'm assuming that incorporates the changes since the published agenda that staff talked about.
Of course, yes. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder.
Okay. John, you.
I would move to make Either a formal or a friendly amendment to change that one P that we've been talking about to a C so that the public has a voice in the process.
Okay, formal motion to amend.
So moved.
Okay, and is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
There's a second. Okay, discussion. I think I understand where you're coming from. Mr. Krillinger.
From a staff perspective, or rather a SPAC perspective, is this like, hey, I want to do the school thing. We want public input. Have we now just turned something that theoretically could be decided adequately by the parks director and made this a 14-month-long public process for me to play Frisbee in the park with some 4-year-olds?
Yes.
It would not be a 14-month-long process. It would be subject to the 120-day rule. But but it would be a several-month public process through the Planning Commission if someone wants to start one of these up. And typically, that's going to be 60 to 90 days, potentially longer.
Without a SPAC hearing, in theory, how long?
Planning Commission hearing.
Planning Commission.
Sorry, Planning Commission hearing. How long would that process take?
It would be a matter of weeks for the Parks Department to do their due diligence to figure out whether or not they want to sign it, days or weeks.
I think something else to be aware of, if I may, requiring them to have a conditional use permit would be pretty costly, especially when you're considering, starting up a new childcare program. The conditional use permit application is around $3,000. As opposed to the facility use agreement, I believe the current rate that we charge per month is $250 for use of the public park space. So that would be a considerable fee for them to pay.
Okay. Yep. Do you have question or discussion for the
Question
for
for
council?
Mr. Mitten.
Okay.
Our facility use agreement can be anywhere from 4 hours to 14 years, right?
It's limited by charter to 10 years, but
Right.
we typically do them annually or for a 2-year period or something like that.
But in theory, if there's a new program that there was maybe some caution surrounding, we could say, hey, let's try this out for.
Oh, 100%.
Yep. Mr. Keating?
Would there be sufficiently few of these to where we could just have a very simple process where we ask Mr. Rosenthal to go through city manager and to us so we can just approve these in one fell swoop?
I think kind of as a council action, you could expect a council briefing or something similar to that would be
Just
a very
prior to
simple
approval.
way to make the council aware of what's occurring.
If we had a chance to weigh in, I would be in favor of doing this without needing a CUP personally.
There's a difference between being briefed about it, this is coming, and getting to say, no, it's not.
That's what I mean. You're right.
We wouldn't get to say, no, it's not. We would just be told, this is the plan.
That's not my understanding. So that's not what I'm agreeing to, actually.
Then-
So I would want
Okay.
approval ability.
So I think if this boils down to, if I can maybe succinct it, is whether or not there is some kind of elected or appointed oversight to the use of the parks for these uses. We do know that right now, the only one that maybe there's multiple, but the one that I can think of is they've brought up, and that's existed and kind of the proof of concept sort of exists right now today. That being said, I think the discussion is good on that, but did you have anything you guys
Yeah,
want to follow up on?
Just want to mention one. That's a pretty obscure area where the current facility is now, and what we were seeing was an example where it might be in Bear Creek Park in a very large area, and we could be signing away the public's right to use this for a year. So yeah, I'd be interested in.
Sure. I guess just a little bit of feedback on that, Mr. Renton.
First off, I want to emphasize we're not signing away the public's use to use it. This is not exclusive use of that area. They can have kids there. I can still go play fetch with my dog in that same space. Kids can still play touch football. It's non-exclusive use of the area. So the public would not lose the right to use it as part of this.
No fences, no structures built?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And just a reminder, the maximum program size is 16 to 20 kids, depending on their age. And the amount of space required to support that, I mean, the example we looked at was 16 children, and you need 1.5 acres. I don't know about you, but I think 16 kids in 1.5 acres is there's still a lot of open space left. And as Mr. Mitten said, they wouldn't be exclusive use. It would still be shared with the public.
That makes me feel better.
All right, John. Do you guys have any comments down here? We got John, then we got Kevin with the last word.
It's not that I don't like the use.
Sorry, Garrett's got
The
the
use
last
is
word.
fine. I guess the question boils down to what price public participation. And we've already learned that, I don't know what the price, if anything, is, but I can guess we can say cost, tangible or not, of our friends at Hilltop losing the opportunity to participate as they would have liked to that day was vast. They're certainly not happy about it. So I don't really want to adopt a procedure that says,
Yep.
we're not going to do it again.
Gotcha.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yep.
Not that we did that, I'm just saying it didn't occur for whatever reason.
Right. Kevin, if you're going to call the question, then I'm going to have Garrett go real quick, but
Super quick. So Parks and Rec, we have lots of agreements with lots of different organizations. I was literally at a Parks and Rec meeting last week. There was an agreement, the length of the agreement, 3 months. Why was it 3 months? Because Rich wanted to make sure him and his team, that things worked out, right? If things don't work out, it's only a 3-month thing, and there's already there's language always in there that the Parks and Rec can just not do that stuff anymore, not allow that space to be used. So I have never once heard of any organization having any contract with the city parks where people are just going and doing whatever they want, and we can't stop them because we signed something with them. I mean, we do a pretty good job of making sure that if something goes astray, that we have the ability to reclaim what we're doing. Okay. So I would assume that same thing's going to happen here. Thank you.
Can someone clarify what is the proposed amendment? Like,
to change it from P to PS.
which P?
No, P to C.
P to C, sorry.
There's lots of Ps. Which one?
Flip to your right.
Kayla showed us. Maybe she can show us again.
835. Is that the one? Okay. So we have a $3,000 conditional use fee around there, is that right? Okay, so it's going to cost an additional $6,000 for the application preparation. So we're looking at a total of $9,000 for these child care facilities to get up and running. I don't feel good about that. I really don't.
Okay. Good thoughts, good discussion. Winnie, can you call the roll on the amendment? That was John Quinn, and then Curlinger had the second.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Mike Curlinger,
No.
Jessica Ayers,
No.
sorry, Kevin Keating.
No.
I'm sorry, I marked the wrong one. Okay, Zach Smith,
No.
Kevin Stein,
No.
and Garrett West.
No.
We have 6 no and 1 yes.
Okay, the amendment fails. We're back to the main motion. Any other additional comments on the main motion? Winnie, can you call the roll on that?
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
John Quinn,
No.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Mike Curlinger,
Yes.
and Zach Smith.
Yes.
We have 6 yes and 1 no.
Okay, that motion carries.
Good job, Kayla.
Yeah, that was a good job.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we at?
90.2, Your Honor.
Sorry?
90.2,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
It does come
Hey,
up
I was
to
going to
12.
say that long enough until I found my place. Mitten, I don't need that. All right, 90.2, Mr. Mitten.
90.2 is Council Bill 2026-33, an ordinance approving an amendment to the Medford Comprehensive Plan to adopt an updated economic opportunity analysis and revise goals, policies, and implementation strategies into the economic element of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. May we have staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Carla Palladino with your Planning Department. So this evening I'll talk about the proposal and criteria, talk about the project background, give a little bit of a summary about the plan, talk about agency comments, the public involvement through this process, give the Planning Commission's recommendation, and ask for your action this evening. So proposal and criteria, this is a Type 4 legislative comprehensive plan amendment. The Planning Commission made a recommendation. City Council has final approving authority. And we're looking at amending our comprehensive plan, specifically the economic element and the goals, policies, and strategies that relate to that element. The approval criteria are found in section 10.220 sub 2 of the Medford Municipal Code. It does actually then point you back to the comprehensive plan. There are 3 distinct sections looking at conclusions, goals, and policies. These are the ones on the screen. Those have all been addressed in your council report and are found to be satisfied. The next set of criteria look at implementation strategies. All of those except for criterion 5 are satisfied, and 5 is not applicable. So in terms of project background, this project started back in 2024. We did receive a technical assistance grant from the state to help fund a consultant that we hired, which is Community Attributes. We also did have some planning budget money to fill in the rest of the funds. We did work collaboratively with the city of Ashland. They were also updating their economic element at the same time. So we worked with them on the regional analysis piece, as the data was pretty much similar because it's all the same. So we were looking at that together. We did have an advisory committee and we looked at public input. And so on the side here, you can see who represented the 18-member committee. And we did have 9 staff members as well participate. So in terms of deliverables, we're hoping to amend the comp plan. We're replacing the 2008 economic element with this new economic opportunity analysis document from 2025, and then updating the goals and policies and strategies as a part of that section. So in terms of background, as I mentioned, we started in October of 2024. It was a pretty short timeline. Councilor Ayers served on our committee. Thank you for that. And so we did have 3 committee meetings. We did have an open house and a survey within this time frame, and then worked through kind of the technical data as it was being pulled through August of 2025. So in terms of plan summary, this starts with statewide planning goal 9. This is the economic economy portion of the state goals. The state requires that cities plan for economic growth. They want to make sure that we have land for commercial industrial uses. And so this is really looking at, kind of what is our vision for the economics of Medford moving forward? What kind of industries are we potentially looking at? And do we have enough land suitable to house and provide for those uses? We did provide the draft report last summer to the state, and they did identify that it meets their requirements. So in terms of plan contents, we're looking at just 7 different chapters, broken down as basically the executive summary, looking at existing conditions, looking at national, state, and regional economic trends, looking at, again, the buildable land inventory and the local economic trends, and then kind of leading or following with economic development priorities and the strategic themes. The goals, policies, and strategies were already part of the comp plan. We're really just going in and making revisions to the conclusions based on the new data in the EOA, and then any modifications and additions to the goals and policies. So in terms of existing conditions, this section really looks at kind of the context of Medford. It really talks about population data. It gets into housing size and income, kind of describes some of the home sale data and cost burden trending downward, which is good. It also looks at the composition of the city's zoning districts and the percentage of the total. As you can see on the graph here, the single-family residential is our largest category for zoning. And then it touches on some of the environmental conditions that may disrupt the economy in the future, including drought, heat, and wildfires. So in terms of national trends, this just provides kind of a more global context and then kind of relates it back down to the regional level. So U.S. unemployment rate in 2024 was 4.1%. It does talk about our population that has been growing since 2020, and then talks about some of the major industry sectors for the counties, including services, trade, transportation, utilities, education, and health. In terms of the local economic insights, we have over 51,000 total employed persons in Medford. 37% of them live and work here. The largest employment sectors include healthcare, retail trade, accommodations, and food service. We do have, we're looking at potentially over 11,000 jobs being estimated over the planning period for 20 years, which represents a growth of about 1%. And then those sectors that we would be seeing the most growth in potentially would be healthcare, leisure and hospitality, and then fire, which is finance, insurance, and real estate. And then there's that bullet, kind of the third bullet, the percentage of bachelor's degree or higher. I think that leads nicely in with President Bailey's discussion this evening about higher education and its importance, and obviously our rate is a little bit low, and so it'd be good to be able to continue to increase that. In terms of buildable land inventory, this is really looking at the commercial industrial inventory. We look at this through the general land use plan designations. Obviously, when we did our urban growth boundary expansion in 2018, that provided some additional land. The conclusion noted that we do have a surplus of commercial of 202 acres and a surplus of industrial of 407. The state also does require that we look at short-term supply, so these are properties that have utilities available and adjacent, ready to go. We did an analysis, there's a map in the document that kind of shows the availability of water and utilities and things like that. We estimated a little over 1,100 acres. This is just shy of the 25% that the state is looking for. It says that cities can kind of modify and look at something different. So we have a 20% supply. We've added a goal into the goals and conclusions that would try to increase that over the planning period. And then it did note that in terms of just demand considerations, that in terms of service commercial zoning, the smaller parcels are something that we may want to try and encourage, either development or some type of subdividing to create those, and that we are somewhat lacking in the 1 to 5 acre heavy industrial sites within the inventory. Strategic themes, this was really based on community input, some of our stakeholder interviews, and just kind of things that seemed to keep resonating as we were talking with people. And so those are all identified here. Some of them identifying, looking at prioritizing downtown as an anchor, making sure we're keeping pace with housing needs, ensuring we're either growing or recruiting a skilled workforce were some of those strategic themes identified. Goals, policies, and strategies. The goal does remain the same, to actively stimulate economic development and growth. That will provide for opportunities to diversify and strengthen our economic activity as we move forward. And then the updated conclusion statements, again, were based on some of the kind of key data points that were part of the plan. And then the policies and strategies were updated. There's those in blue within the document. And I noted the page number so you could quickly refer to those if you have questions. Agency comments, we had formal no comments from engineering, Medford Water, and ODOT. Public involvement, so again, this kind of 10-month process included a joint online community survey with the City of Ashland. We did hold an open house. We had 3 advisory committee meetings, and then we held stakeholder interviews with executive team members, mayor and council, and some community members. In terms of study sessions, we had 1 planning commission and 1 city council study session and 2 council briefings, the last one being last August. In terms of public comments, we did meet with the Chamber of Commerce members. There was, I think, 4 or 5 members that had kind of been part of our plan and had some questions, and so we kind of went through their concerns. Their questions really related to kind of the development of the goals and policies and implementation strategies. They're concerned with the employment growth forecast being lower than the previous one. So we have a 1% identified in this current plan. The prior plan was a 1.7. Again, that 1% does represent 11,000 potential new jobs. So we do think that there's still quite a bit of growth to occur. Some of the other concerns were a lack of discussion of target industry opportunities. And so we did add that to the goals and policies. And then also concerns with the buildable land inventory and wanting to have that reevaluated in 5 years. So just to make sure that we're kind of in line with, if things are happening fast and we're losing land quickly, that we are keeping up with with the demand that we need.
Can I ask a quick question on
Sure.
that? That was the concern, was if you go too low of a projected growth rate, that the acreage would come out lower than it needed to be?
I mean, I don't know that we made that tie, but I think that could have been the concern, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we're fine with doing the 1 to 5 year look at this?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then Mr. Harlan did speak at the Planning Commission. He did talk about the implementation strategy 1-5F, and that is a little bit separate from the other items, but this was specifically about our current development code has a very archaic land use chart. The standard industrial codes, they're all, 50 pages worth of everything under the sun that we could possibly permit or not. And so we do have a current strategy in there that says we would evaluate it, and we haven't evaluated it yet. So his kind of push to the Planning Commission was like, please initiate this, let's get talking about it. So that's where Mr. Harlan landed that evening. And with that, The Planning Commission unanimously recommended a favorable recommendation, and Chair Culbertson said to stress the unanimous. And this evening, we would ask for you to approve the ordinance as presented. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions? All right, good job. Since there are no questions, I will open the public hearing. Winning? No? Anyone? All right. At this point, I will find my place again. Good Lord. I will close the public hearing. Any discussion before going to motion, or I'll take a motion and discussion. How about that? Mr. Curlinger, you got your light on.
Move to approve Council Bill 2026-33.
Second.
Excellent. Would you like to speak to your motion as
Good-
you laugh at me?
Good job.
You want to speak to the motion?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Carla. I know that you put a lot of work into this. It was a long time coming.
Mr. West.
I really enjoyed reading the economic opportunity analysis, and I think it's one of the better ones I've read in a comprehensive plan. So thank you for all your work on it. I think this will be valuable for the city of Medford today and in the future, especially with the buildable lands inventory stuff. So thank you.
Excellent. Wait, double dipping?
I just want to point out, Mr. West might be one of 2 or 3 people in the room who has read multiple economic opportunity development plans to be able to comment on how good this one was.
Before. All right. With that recorded for the record, Winnie, can you call the roll?
Mike Curlinger,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
and Kevin Stein.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
That motion passes. Thank you, everybody. We are on to council business. Right before that, let me just, I want to acknowledge we have 8 proclamations, and as we can tell, the meeting's carried on quite a bit. We also have another meeting after this as well. So what I want to do is just note the proclamations that have been issued. Please let everybody know that they are fully available on the website, and I encourage you to check those out. So for tonight, we're acknowledging Building Safety Month, National Preservation Month, National Travel and Tourism Week, National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, National Day of Prayer, Nurses Week, Bike to Work Week, and Peace Offers Memorial Day. I will also note that on a couple of these, I had some two people come in to kind of speak to their passion and heartfelt emotion towards these causes, and that was Mama Bear Garlaga, came in to speak about the awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, and also Christian Mendoza Ruvalacaba came in, who was pushing for the Nurses Week. So I'd like to acknowledge both of them for coming in today. Madame.
All right, we had council officers meeting, and first, we just did a little debrief on the Pear Blossom pop-up concert on Saturday, and staff is going to work on just cleaning up some procedures to respond to potential future events, and council's involvement in that. We talked a little bit about fireworks because we're coming into that season. We're starting to get a lot of commentary on it. We just discussed the history of how we are where we are, how difficult it is to enforce firework usage in our city, and really proper vegetation management is key in that situation. We talked about the city manager recruitment update. We currently have a city manager subcommittee that has Nick, Mike, and Garrett on it. We discussed keeping that committee and maybe adding one for the initial vetting of candidates. And so Kevin Keating did offer to join that. So unless anybody else feels really strongly about participating, we'll leave the committee as it is.
This is for the city manager.
Mhm.
Sorry. So what are the people for city manager?
The people that are currently on the committee are Nick, Mike, and Garrett. And then we talked about making it 4 to continue. And so adding Kevin Keating volunteered. Do you feel strongly about being on this process? Yeah, he's 4. So right now we're good. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Nope. Yeah, thank you. I was not done with that section. Heather Gantz is our direct recruiter on that, and she wants to start one-on-ones with council next week. So if you get a call from her, that is what it is regarding. And last but not least, we talked a little bit about downtown speed limits. We've discussed this in a council briefing. We are going to request speed zone studies on 4th, 10th, and Oakdale that are currently posted at 25 to see if we can continue to keep them that way. All right, yes?
Was that an expense to the city to do that?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. All right, any committee reports? Mr. West?
I attended the Water Commission today. There was a substantial discussion about whether to approve additional bonding to go up to their debt limits. That's an additional $13 million in bonding. They did not make a decision and punted it to a future meeting. They did authorize 2 resolutions. One, an expenditure of $325,000 for some software, and the other one, $372 for an amendment to the construction of the Barnett pump station due to some issues they were having with an easement. And that's my report.
Anyone else? Mr. Stein?
So I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. So about the event. So obviously, as I said, things weren't. There was no procedure for the occurrence here. It was a very unique situation that occurred, and as I said, it's not hard to find people that went, and it's not hard to find people that had a good time. What I would like is because I saw it all over. People were tagging the city of Medford, like, "Oh, thank you so much, city of Medford," and however it gets piecemealed together, I don't care. But I do think acknowledging that we had the event on our social medias and newsletters and briefs, Bennett Breyer, interim city manager, is fully appropriate. And however that gets crafted, that's great. But the fact is that there's lots of people thanking the city of Medford. And this would be great if we accept their thanks and, acknowledge that in some way, shape, or form, because right now we're not doing that. And I think that's unfortunate to not basically put out information about something good that happened within our city. And as we heard from Clay, and I'm sure you'll hear from others, it was a good night for downtown overall. It was a good night for businesses. I don't know. I think I saw Annie. So, but I talked to Annie earlier. She reported positive feedback across the board from our local merchants. So I would like that. I don't know what I need to do to make that happen, but I would like us to at least give KJ the ability to do her good work and, do whatever with it, because it's something that we should acknowledge and see as, even though not imperfect way to get there, was a great benefit to the city of Medford. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? What? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was you asked how to make that happen. I just want to make clear, this is something where council can make an ask, but ultimately comms is under the charter, subject to supervision of city manager, not city council. So certainly make an ask, but I don't think that's something where a motion would be an appropriate mechanism.
If I ask a direct question to the interim city manager?
Absolutely.
Can you help me out here? Can we go forward without at least acknowledging that this event happened and whatever else, or are we gonna not do that?
I'm not sure this is a forum to have it.
Okay, we can have it elsewhere then.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's extenuating circumstances regarding acknowledgement of this event that I think deserve some further discussion.
Okay, Any other business? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so staff reports.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 staff reports. Your agenda shows 3, but we're going to delay 1 until a future meeting. So the first one is a quick staff report from Michelle King, our planning director, on open streets and bike to work week. And after that, Aaron Ott will follow with a staff report on Oregon emergency management and FEMA grants.
It's a really short report, but I did have some pictures, so just 1 second. It's already down there, Michelle. Is it? Yeah, put it down for you. Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Here we go. All right. Thank you. Support team. So just a quick reminder that May is Bike Month, and the city traditionally has done a bike to school, bike to work event. This year is a little bit different. We've added a new sponsor. We've added the Children's Museum to the event, and we're holding the event on Ivy Street, and we're closing Ivy Street, so it's a dual event of an open street and a bike to work, bike to school event. So it's a co-sponsored event with engineering and planning. We've been doing it for 16 years, and RBTD also participates, and it's on their Go Bike Lane monthly activity list. Engineering helps buy the breakfast burritos, and we planning organizes and does the logistics when we serve as host. The event includes educational activities, including the melon drop test to see how your head performs inside a helmet versus outside a helmet. So that's very entertaining. There's a bike repair station and a bike decoration, a helmet decoration station. So we're really excited to hold this event in conjunction with the Children's Museum. And it is May 22nd between 7 and 9 a.m. So we hope that we see some council members biking, walking, coming to visit us at the station. And we expect a lot of families to be there. So it should be a fun time. So I promised it was short, sweet. That's it. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Do we have emergency management?
Mr. Ott's on his way down.
All right.
Mayor, Council, Aaron Ott, your emergency manager. I come to you tonight offering gifts. We've been very fortunate this past year and have had several large grants that can definitely help in the resiliency and the mitigation for our community. The first one is a grant that we requested about a year ago. It's to update our natural hazard mitigation plan. We've consolidated it with the county and all of our sister cities throughout the county, districts. This is the plan that is required so that we can get other federal grants in times of disasters. And we'll be coming back to you in September of 27 to get it approved and adopted. This is a grant that started in 2020. And it finally came into fruition earlier this year. It's a $4.5 million grant to mitigate hazardous fuels within Prescott Park and Bear Creek Greenway. The nice thing about the Bear Creek Greenway is the repairing area will also be offered to both private property and business property, so we can really help mitigate all of it. Because if you know the Bear Creek area, it's a hodgepodge of who owns what. So again, this goes across not just city property, but all the different property owners. They have the ability to elect. Obviously, they can say no, but hopefully they'll take advantage of this.
Before we go on, I noted this grant prior. We took a trip to DC, several of us, several of you did, and on the day after we met with one of our congressmen, this grant was approved. We don't know if our visit was the result, but we're going to take credit for it. So.
Anything helps at this point, yes. So the scope of work for Prescott Park, it's, the 650 acres is what we're going to be identifying. It goes off of the Prescott Park wildfire mitigation plan that we have, and it's following those high-risk areas. It'll be hand crews only. There won't be any kind of mechanical or any kind of motorized vehicles up there. And I think it's something that we've done, well, I know we've done it on smaller scales every year, and this will just be able to get us a big jump and to finish out that plan. Bear Creek will be a little bit different, about 700 acres, defensible space around over almost 600 different properties. Again, it's voluntary if those businesses and those private ownerships want to participate, but we will definitely do everything we can to encourage them. It's basically thinning, getting rid of the ladder fuels so we can keep fires down on the ground, easier to put out and less potential for spread. And then it also encompasses whatever vegetation we remove to replace it with actual native and natural vegetation versus the invasive stuff that we have over the greenway currently. There's a lot of regulatory compliance, one of the reasons why it took about 5 years. So we have a lot of partnerships that we've been working with, getting surveys, cultural surveys, environmental surveys, and impacts. So when we do this, we will be compliant with all that, and it has been already approved all the way from the Salem and the feds. And updates on some other additional grants that we currently have out there. The Unified Command Vehicle is still in the process of being manufactured. That was a $880,000 grant with no cost to the citizens of Medford. And again, that should be coming hopefully December-ish, maybe January of 2027. The Hospital Preparedness Grant, we continue to be good partners with OHA who offers that grant. It gets a lot of different educational opportunities and funding, not just for our city, but also for all our community partners. And then, as John talked earlier about the Chipper Days. Chipper Days was supported for the last 3 years with Oregon State Fire Marshal funds. That grant expires in June of this year. But obviously the Chipper events that we've had have been really successful, and we're looking at ways we can continue that in the future. And then Emergency Management Performance Grants is a federal grant that we will be getting as well this year. So in total with all those kind of grants, we're right around the $5.1 million that we're bringing in for the citizens at no cost to increase our resiliency. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Aaron, this is just kind of random, but do we have any mechanism to pay for, say, we have a property owner that's got a dead tree in the city of Medford and maybe they can't afford to take it down or something? Do we have anything to assist with that?
There are potential opportunities for that. There's some that are out there on case-by-case basis. It really depends on what the type of need is. I would definitely recommend them contacting me and I could try to help them set up. But there are small grants that could help assist them, about the $25,000 to $5,000 range.
Okay. I see a lot of that, and I don't know what their situation is, but it just seems, it would be nice if we could be more proactive about addressing some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an excellent partnership with the contractor who was just helping us with the fuel mitigation project on Chipper Days. Local, great vendor, and I definitely know that they would be happy to help with that kind of stuff. So there's some resources I can definitely get people in touch with.
Eric, did you want to follow up on that?
I was just going to add, we do have a code provision about dead trees on private property. If it's a code violation, we always have the ability to do what we do with sidewalks, where people can't afford to do it, where the city can abate the nuisance and lien the property, and look at a reduced or eliminated interest rate as a way of addressing the public safety issue while in the long term getting repaid.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was thinking of something along the same lines with property owners who might be recalcitrant, even though we're going to provide them with money to fix their properties or to abate the danger of their properties. Can we do that? Can we put some kind of force upon that, same way we would cutting trees around phone lines or something?
So force around it is something that I know in previous councils that we had kind of a talk to about the nuisance ordinance of blackberry bushes and all those that are heathen kind of vegetation that take over the greenway and certain properties. The thought was back then, and with that council at the time, was if we get this grant, which now we have, the city can clean up its own backyard before we start enforcing other people's backyard. So that is completely up to council and legal to pursue what they want to do, but that was the initial thoughts of this grant.
And we've got some draft language that was put on ice a couple of years ago. I can certainly talk about whether we should have a study session about what that is now that we've got some elected officials who came on since we put that code language on ice.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Absolutely.
Yes, John Vile.
Not a question, but just a comment. Mr. Ott is a gifted emergency manager for our city. We're lucky to have him. And one of the things that he is tenacious and aggressive on is seeking money to help us do our job. So well done, Aaron.
All right, super. Well, anything else, Mr. Vile? Great. Anything else for the good of the order here? We are adjourned at 8:29. There is executive session. We're taking a slight break.